All right. So, like I had said before, is I moved from the CRF125L to the CRF250L, or yeah, CR125F to the CRF250L. And of course, this is a dual sport, so it's road legal. I went over it briefly in my first video, but I'll go over what I've done. I put a luggage rack on, Rotopax extra gas, went to some grippier foot pegs. I don't remember who the manufacturers are, but looks like Scar Racing foot pegs. I do have aluminum bash plate, aluminum radiator guard, plasticked it my front fender, black just to make it stand out a little bit more. Seat Concepts, gripper comfort touring seat, FMF Q4 exhaust. It's got the EJK controller, pillow top grips, Acerbis hand guards. Yeah, so that's what I did to the CRF. So we'll go ahead and get this out. I haven't ridden this a whole lot lately because I've been on my V-Strom, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but we'll go ahead and get back out on this before it starts raining today. But it's up to 500 miles on this. Oh, feels funny to be on this bike. So different. Oh, so different from my V-Strom. We rode 200 miles yesterday on the V-Strom. Brittany just got a brand new 2019 Ninja 650, and it came in the crate. So when I say brand new, like they uncrated it. She's the first person who ever rode it. So we got a little bit of breaking in for that with 200 miles, but my back and butt's a little sore from yesterday, but I spent all day on my V-Strom, and so this just feels super different. So with this, it's the dual sport, so you're upright. Man, coming off the CR125F, it's just hilarious how much more comfortable this bike is. And one thing, so the V-Strom 650, I'm gonna have to put my face shield down because it's drizzling on me. The 650 has a lot of low-end torque, and the first gear is kind of a tall first gear, I think. And all the gears are kind of tall, so they're spaced out, and so you can just roll on the throttle through each gear. Like it doesn't try to get to the high RPMs really quick. But this, even though everyone's like, oh, it's so slow, the CRF250L, there's so many faster bikes. There are faster bikes, but this still has a lot of low-end grunt, I guess because it's designed to be able to go off-road. But it just it's still really fun bike to ride. The problem with the CRF, I'm fogging up my face mask because it's cold outside. The problem with the CRF comes in that the highway speeds. I thought this bike was going to do me fine for a long time. And I mentioned that everyone drives really fast in Texas, and I started riding this at like 70-ish miles an hour, and oh my god, it just feels so unstable. It's not even that it's unstable, it's just every bit of wind just beats the holy shit out of you. And I know that's a terribly wide turn, but I'm used to having a gear indicator, and I don't on this. But this is still a good bike. It still sounds good. It's still fun to ride. The comfort seat on here is super comfortable. And the ride is plush for a dirt bike. I mean, coming off of the CR125F is just amazingly comfortable. And then you jump up to the V-Strom, which is a whole world of comfort difference. Looks like I'm not going to get to ride a whole lot today with this rain going on. It's just starting to be enough that the camera's probably even getting... I should probably wipe you off back there. Let's see here. Where's the lens? Give you a little wipe. See how that is. But yeah, I mean, this bike is still a good bike. I don't know if I want to get rid of it. I don't have a lot of off-road that's really close, so there's not really a whole lot for me to use it for, you know. I had really big aspirations of riding this up to Sam Houston National Park and doing dirt up there, but I mean, that in itself is an hour ride north just to get to some dirt trails that, you know, may or may not be open. They're sandy, and you know, so I'm enjoying just riding on the road a lot more, and because there's, you know, a lot more road in Texas. So unfortunately, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. It is the first bike that I've, you know, really owned. I actually remembered I did have a Kawasaki Concourse that was like a 2000 model that I bought as a totaled bike, and I fixed it back up, got it to functional, and tried to teach myself how to ride, but yeah, like an early 2000s 1000cc sport touring motorcycle that weighed, you know, way too much, and I lived on top of a hill in Washington. So I really don't count that as my first bike, because I had it for very little time and didn't learn to ride. Could barely do anything with it, and I just sold it since it was running again for about what I paid for it, broke even. But I'm gonna have to make a little UE here. But this is really my first bike that I've, you know, that I learned on, and like, I'd hate to see it go. I'm sure the neighbors just love me with the exhaust that's on here. The Q4, it's supposed to be a quiet exhaust, you know, like quiet performance. There is nothing fucking quiet about the Q4. You know, I mean, I've heard louder exhaust, but it's not quiet. Like, people in the neighborhood are like, oh yeah, you must be one of them kids like tearing shit up. Come on, squirrel, don't do it. Okay. But yeah, you know, this bike is just a really good all-around little bike. If I didn't need to take highways and fast roads everywhere, it'd still be great. But since I have to go 70-75 miles an hour pretty much everywhere, this just isn't the bike for that. So we'll go ahead and do one more road. We'll turn around and we'll head back, because I'm actually getting a little wet, and the wet is getting cold. Yesterday it was 32 degrees when I woke up, and I don't even have my outer layer on that I normally wear when it's cold. So, but this is the subdivision. I mean, this is where I put 200 miles on this bike. Learning to ride was just up and down these roads into the subdivision. You know, and before I ever took the MSF course, didn't have a license, but I wasn't leaving the subdivision. I know that's not good. I don't recommend that for anybody to do. You should take the MSF course first, but, you know, not everybody has 4.5 acres to learn on, and these dogs always like to get out. Doesn't look like they're going to today. You know, sometimes there's nowhere to learn, and then the MSF course expects you to almost like know what you're doing when you get in there. And if you have zero idea of what to do on a bike, that's a lot to learn one day and test the next. So with no practice, and I had 200 miles on this bike before I took the MSF. So, but this is just a great little bike. Comfortable. It's got a good amount of pep. I mean, especially for anybody to learn on. 23 horsepower, I think. I'm getting that mixed up. I think it might be something like 19 to the wheels, 23 at the crank. I've seen reports that with the Q4 and the EJK, it puts out like 22 or 23 at the wheels. I don't know. It's enough. It's enough that it gets you around everywhere. It gets up to speed fairly quick enough to be fun, but doesn't have enough power. Or I don't know if it's the power or if it's the bike itself. Like the dynamics of just a sport bike and the aerodynamics that won't let it go 80 in the gearing. But you could probably change sprockets and everything, but I haven't wanted to do that, because if I do want to do dirt, I wanted to have the down low. I don't want to change the sprockets to only do down low, because I might need to ride it to where I want to drive. So I think, you know, Honda did a good job of finding a happy medium where, as long as you can find roads that you don't have to go 70, it'll do 65 all day. It might be a little windy, and it might be a little uncomfortable at 65, but it'll do it. And 60 is completely comfortable. Like 55 to 60, you could do that all day and be completely comfortable in this. But once you creep up to 65, 70 miles an hour, it starts getting uncomfortable. And 18-wheeler wind pushes you all over the place. But man, for a first bike, like, this was great to learn on. Especially once I took the MSF course and learned some skills and came out and got back on my bike, I was like, wow, I did not know how to ride at all. I learned a lot and was able to apply that to this bike, and made me a better rider. And then this is great to practice skills on, especially since you have to lean it over so far because it's a dirt bike. It's just, it gets you used to having to lean pretty far. So, that's the thing. There's probably not going to be a whole lot to see today because we're just riding around the subdivision here. But, yeah, man, like, I just don't know if I want to get rid of this bike. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It might just be like the old car that sits in the garage or something, but I also can't see letting the bike go. And I just don't have a day-to-day use for it. It's really sad because I would love to ride this bike more. Every time I get on it, I'm like, oh yes, I remember this. I remember you. You're so familiar. You're such a good little bike. The roads are starting to get slick too. But it'll do what you need it to do. And every now and then I'll see somebody riding one of these around like a subdivision or like a busy 2-lane each way, like lots of shops on either side of the street. I don't know what you'd call that. Just a normal road. And you'll see somebody on one of these and you're like, hey, look at you on a 250L dual sport riding through the subdivision in the suburbs. Definitely no dirt where you're at, but good for you for riding. And that's kind of how I feel with this, is like, hey, good for me, I have a bike, but I definitely needed to upgrade to something else. And I might put on my other jacket and just go for a quick ride on the V-Strom. I'm soaking through. I just felt it get to got a drop running down the nip. That's cold. Oh, yep, there's the other nip. All right, so I probably need to start putting these bikes back. But, if there's any questions y'all have about anything, not that there's a whole lot of people watching my videos, but if y'all have any questions about anything, I'm be glad to answer questions. It's much easier for me to answer questions about things than it is to talk off the cuff and, think of things to talk about with regards to the bike, because all bikes are amazing. They might have their quirks, but all bikes so far that I've ever ridden, like, I like all of them. There's nothing really bad. Oh, I lost a bolt. That could be bad. Anyways, yeah, I mean, the quirk on this is sometimes it doesn't want to go into first gear. And I find that with all Hondas, like, the transmissions are a little quirky. But, no, it's too wet. This doesn't handle the really soft, mucky mud like the CR125F does. This one here just handles things so much better whenever it starts to get wet. And all right, so we are done with this one. So we'll do a quick walk around here, take a look at it. I mean, it's a good looking dirt bike. And it doesn't have the street look, but it does everything on the street that other bikes do. So, all right, that's that one.